Well, we've got to the first of the month, so Jeff Welton blesses us with his attendance and wisdom and kindness and sharing what he knows. And this week, we're going to do kind of a makeup in a way. We had started to talk about winterizing last month, but the NFT kind of got in the way. We debriefed on the NFT. Uh, no, NPT. Is that
whatever,
test?
whatever they call it this week.
Exactly. And so we kind of put that off till this week. And so Jeff's here. We're going to talk about winterizing a transmitter site and such, and some of the tips he's got in mind. And we invite you to share some of the tips that you have used. And some of them I saw on the broadcast list this week. I don't know, Jeff, if you took note of those or not, but we have a few ideas there. Mini blowtorches. A lot of good ways here.
Well, and that was one of the questions that we got early on that you had sent me was winterizing locks, if you will, and that'll vary depending on where you are and what kind of lock it is. But I mean, like at the very least, I use lithium grease in mine because it doesn't seem to thicken up as much and freeze the keyways. But and of course, I use Canadian Tire brand, so you're going to have to source something else. Ace Hardware probably has something, but or who was it? Somebody I talked to took inner tire or inner tubes and just cut two little holes for the hasp to go through, and just basically wrap that around the lock to keep moisture out. So yeah, I'd be way. What's everybody else do for locks? I mean, the blowtorch obviously is a good idea because you are going to encounter some frozen locks. Everybody's muted and everybody's quiet. Look at this. I asked the first question and it's already silence.
I carry WD-40 all the time. Every chance I get, I hit the locks with it, especially during the wintertime.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the challenge with WD-40 I found is that where it's designed to displace water, unless there's a lubricant, that it can gum up the works after a while. Do you find that too, Mark, or is it maybe I'm just not doing it enough?
Oh, I guess I've never had that problem. I've heard of people having that problem, but no, it works for me. And of course, I do
Yeah.
carry a small butane torch.
Now the cool
Worst
thing
comes
about
to worst, I can melt it off real quick. Heat the key up though.
yeah, yeah. The cool thing too with the WD-40 is they do have all kinds of different size cans. Like you can get it in the little lipstick size. Not that I know how big a lipstick is, but yeah, the little bitty containers. So it's pretty convenient that way too. It doesn't take up a lot of space.
What about silicon, Jeff?
I'm not opposed to it. I don't have a lot of experience with it, so that'd be a good question. Greg mentions that he's purchased locks that are designed for exterior use with the all-weather covering, and I've seen the rubberized locks. I say rubberized. I don't know what the material is, but yeah, those seem to work well.
Graphite,
Something
graphite.
graphite.
Yeah, I've
Yep,
heard it.
graph.
Somebody mentioned in a post this morning. Oh, I think it was on the why can't I think what it's called?
Broadcast.
Broadcast thing. Yeah. Somebody mentioned graphite in a spray can. You could actually spray it.
Hmm.
I've not seen that before.
They have it in spray cans. And locksmiths will tell you want to put graphite in and not WD-40, but I've always used WD-40 and I've never had a problem. And in fact, the WD-40 can is usually warm. So if the lock is frozen, that tends to thaw it out. So works for me. And they also tell you should never use it for cleaning pots or switches, and it seems to work fine for that too. So who knows?
Gonna say all the things so well, and see up here, one of the things we use WD-44 is you spray your fishing hooks with it because fish seem to like the taste of it.
Well, I'm going to break in and take advantage of Mark's comment and let everyone know that's here that the broadcast list is still going. It's going since the mid 80s. We were first on the BBS system, and then now it's it's an email system. And if you go to radiolists, plural.net, you can sign up for broadcast or the Tech Assist list or one of the other lists. We have several. And You don't have to worry about advertising from Facebook or LinkedIn sending you thousands of job requests or something like that. We keep it on a professional basis. So broadcast is there, and we invite you to be part of that. Jeff, you're talking about things that can gum up the works. And I think nothing gums up the works more than a dirty filter.
Yup. And I mean, that's not just a winterizing thing, that's a all year round thing. And there are several things, and I don't care whether you're north, south, or in between, there are several things that you should have on a regularly scheduled checklist. Filters and batteries are the two that really come to mind, but blower belts and things like that, cleaning out compressor coils, heat exchanger coils, or fins, etc. We did in the TTT just this past week. We were talking transmitter sites, and we talked a lot about heating and cooling, and get into that a bit. But air filters, absolutely, or well, and talking generators, oil filters, water filters, all those things. Put them on a schedule. The big thing that I always wonder is what folks use. I mean, for me, I use we're I guess smart houseified, if you will, but I use she's unplugged Alexa for almost everything. So I'll set reminders. If you look at the list of reminders on the Alexa app, my phone, there's about 40 of them there, running all different intervals, once or twice a year, once or twice a month, weekly, daily, whatever. So that's one example. But what do other people use for that?
Oh, I was going to mention batteries. Make sure your batteries and your transmitters are fresh. And
So-
maybe like once a year when we go to fall back and time this weekend, might be a good scheduling time to change your batteries. I've been burnt before. That's why I say that.
So I am going to see if I've got about 85 emails open at the moment, because it's like I said, I'm on vacation, but all that means is that I answer the emails on my schedule, not yours.
Yeah, you're going to change your time schedule there, Mark, but I am not. Ha ha ha.
You're so lucky.
Well, whoopee you.
Just to show you how nice a guy I am. Next week, it's going to be the same time for everybody except us here in Arizona and Hawaii. I'm going to have to start at noon instead of 11 a.m. Big deal. But everybody else, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, same thing on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on Pacific. I'm not going
to. No, see, I'm on the East Coast. It's 3 p.m. here.
Yeah, no, you're in the middle of the Atlantic, silly boy.
The far East Coast. Let's see here.
So they call that Far Eastern time?
We call it Atlantic time because that's where they stuck us. But you can call it whatever you want to call it. Here, let me just see. Oh, Barry, let me do screen sharing, buddy.
Oh, sure. Let me
be gentle.
You got it.
So yeah, because Greg, had made the comment about UPS batteries, which won't necessarily be an annual thing, but again, you'll have those. So I coincidentally had a slide about just this thing not too terribly long ago, and it's everything. Meters, multimeters. Those batteries should be replaced on a schedule too.
I can tell you a group called me up one day asking me how they're going to fix their transmitter because it was running, oh goodness, 107 watts or something like that instead of about 3 kilowatts. And I went through the list of things with them, and then they mentioned that the power had flashed. And I said, when did you last change the battery on your controller? Well, that was it. Put the new battery in, and now when power flashes, transfer comes back to the same power it was supposed to be rather than an absolute minimum.
Right. And
I got burned on a BE. It was one of the older BEs that had the 9-volt battery that's buried into the controller. You have to really kind of dig for it.
And if that one was dead and the power glitched, it did not come back up.
It did not come back. And I had to drive 2.5 hours just to figure it out.
And historically, for us, the controller batteries only were used to hold latches for protection circuits. So if the power went out and came back, it still should come back the way it was. But there were some, the Q20s could get a little scrambled if they had a power glitch with a totally dead battery. And some of the newer ones, the battery controller battery holds up a whole lot more stuff. So now, granted, these are CR2032 coin cells. I mean, those things, it's hard to get one totally dead. And, but again, put them on a schedule and you just don't have to worry about it. Downside is, especially on some boxes, us and other people, the batteries, like you said, with the old BEs, those can be a little less accessible, shall we say.
You mentioned heating, cooling remotes here at the bottom of your slide, and it's a good time, of course. Probably it's already too late, if you will, to change from the heating to the cooling cycle, or vice versa. But you might want to recommend changing the lead, which air conditioner takes the lead.
Well, and so my recommendation typically, and again, it's situational. What I usually tell people is if you have dual AC units, or if you're doing a new install, get two AC units and size them just below the worst case scenario. So under normal conditions, one will be plenty. And on a really, really bad day, you'll need both. And then, yeah, just alternate every month. Let's see, UPS batteries, and Nautel does have the battery voltage on the meter readings. Good point, John. Beyond having the battery voltage on the meter readings, every transmitter that I can think of that we've ever had a battery in has got a battery low alarm. Even the original ND series, which are the first ones we put batteries in, double A's. So there was a little red light. Now, those ones is backwards. The little light went out if the batteries were dead instead of coming on. So, somebody got swatted for that.
Hey, Jeff.
Now, when you have these battery changes, now, does it go red on when it gets to red, or in the yellow?
So we don't do yellow and red. We just do good or bad. I mean, if the battery alarm comes on or the battery indicator comes on at all, it's time to change it. David, you had a question?
But
No,
before we go off to that, I just with the battery here and the Nautel, I just want to make sure you said it's on the metering. If you're using the AUI, you need to go in and bring that up. So
right, I don't know how it works on the bar graph on the AUI. I've not looked at one recently at all.
Well, you go in and select it, and it comes up, and you can see it.
Okay, so if it was me, I would probably replace it significantly. I'd probably, if there is a yellow scale on the bar, then I'd definitely go when it hit the yellow.
One thing I wanted to point out on the batteries, I had to do some work at one place, and I said, "Hey, you need a new battery." And they give me this package, and it was obviously a repackaged generic. You want to make sure you have good quality batteries and good brands, because the worst thing that happens is they give you one of these batteries that's generic and it lasts a week and then you're in trouble again.
Right.
Look at the dates. Look at the dates on the batteries too.
And when it's a AA, a AAA, or a 9-volt, I've really lucked out by spending the extra bucks and gone for the lithiums, because they last longer and they're more reliable, and I'll be changing them less.
The whose?
The lithium batteries.
Oh, yep. And I mean, for me, I'm hit or miss. Like I say, everything that I have in the house that has batteries is on a schedule, thanks to what's her face. And so usually we go Kirkland brand from Costco, because they're using, last I checked, they were using Rayovac, but Rayovac ever ready, again, a name brand. So that's something else too. You can get some options that are decent and not going to break the budget. But yeah, Dollar General specials, probably not your best idea in something, especially something critical. I'm trying to remember
that, and it pays to to run it on your voltmeter first to make sure that it's providing the right voltage to begin with.
Always, always, always. Yeah. I mean, batteries are like everything else. Again, they have a shelf life. You can get duds out of the box. It's rare, but not impossible. So yeah, you definitely want to what do they say? Trust but verify. And this comes back to one of the things I said before too, is making sure that you replace the batteries in your multimeter. Otherwise, you go to check it and oh, it's bad. No, it's not. Uh, and I mean, for volt check, that shouldn't matter, but multimeters do rely on the batteries for resistance and diode. If you're FET testing with a multimeter with weak batteries, you're going to get some weird readings that may end up causing you to either replace FETs that are good or not replace FETs that are bad. So you need to have the voltage. And there, we were talking about locks and lubricants and stuff, and just the different things that you may or may not think about. If you, for example, if you've got rotary phase converters, some of those require lubrication of the bearings and check the bushings on a schedule. So various things like that.
Looks like that transmitter's still using your old GUI.
Which transmitter?
Oh, the one you just showed the picture of there with 6.2 of 62.6 watts.
Oh Lord, I don't even know what I've got up on the screen at the moment, or if I'm sharing or Barry's sharing at the moment. Oh, other participants sharing. I'm not even looking at the viewpoint. Let me get back here. Too many buttons, not enough brain cells. See. Well, it's like I said, I've got 85 emails open, so alt tabbing between all of it just totally messes me up.
That's what happens when you're on vacation, Jeff.
Yes, yeah. Well, and so the vacation at 3:00 this morning, I was writing quotes. Let's see. Yeah, batteries that leak are much, much worse, and that's the same deal though. If you're replacing them on a schedule, you're typically not going to get into that. But yeah, if you leave the batteries in something to the point where they start leaking and then they ruin the contacts, and then the device that you're working on requires a whole lot of maintenance, and that's its own particular pain in the rear.
Chuck, I think the issue with BE is that they had the designer who used to work at Harris.
Could be. Whatever it is, I've got scars. I think the sheet metal shop sharpens the edge on every one with a grinder before assembly. I'm not real sure about that.
Well, they called it value engineering.
There you go.
Jeff, there's one other thing that you should point out, in that on a lot of the name brands that we can buy in bulk as professionals, like the Duracell ProCell and so forth, measure them, because, and I'm talking about in size, because I found that the ProCells were a little smaller than the consumer, and when they're smaller, they will eventually fail just because they're not making contact and so forth.
Right. No, that's a good point. So there's an argument for using a calorimeter to check things out as well.
Yeah, I used to rent a lot of wireless microphones when I had a business in Dallas, and we went to ProCells for a while, and they didn't fit in handheld wireless mics, and they kept going on and off, which was really, really special, especially for an expensive battery. Frankly, recently I've been using some that are branded AC Delco. I don't think it has anything to do with General Motors, but they appear to be Rayovacs actually, but they're pretty good and they're cheap from Amazon. I've been having really good luck with them actually.
Yeah, and I mean, they're, like I said, for me, the Kirkland ones seem to work well, the Costco branded ones, and they almost always do tend to pick a higher quality manufacturer for most of their OEM stuff, or for their name branded stuff.
On the other end, you might want to be very careful if you go to the Dollar General or Dollar Store. They are very inexpensive, and the dates all look good, but sometimes those batteries don't last very long at all.
Well, and that was one of the things somebody had mentioned before. You'll get them, you'll plug them in, and a week later you need to put a new set in. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, batteries are like, there are some things that you just don't splurge on. You know, I don't tend to use recycled motor oil in my daily driver, as an example. I don't even know if you can still get recycled motor oil up here. Used to be able to when I was a kid, and we mostly bought it to use it for lubricants for farm equipment, where you didn't necessarily need axle grease, but wanted something to keep the squeaky bits from squeaking.
Now, before we go off to another aspect here, we're kind of halfway between batteries and air conditioning and such. And I want to mention one of the comments was made about your generator, putting a compressor heater around the base of the compressor to keep the oil warm in the generator, which is usually outside.
Yeah, and that one, I mean, two things about that. Number one, it's going to be model specific. Some generators like to have that, some don't care. Big diesels, a block heater is a really, really good idea. Because yeah, there's they can be a little sluggish if it's 40 below. If you're in an area where it doesn't get to 40 below, you know, I mean, my generator out behind the house, we almost never go below 0 Fahrenheit, and it'll pull start at that. So yeah, and pay attention to again where you are and what you've got. Propane generators tend to be obviously a lot less concerned with that. But in that situation, if you get really, really cold and you can't gasify the propane, then you could have an issue. So, yep, knowing where you are and what you've got will determine a lot. You can get for propane generators, you can get warming blankets, I guess, for the tanks, but something to keep them from being in the position and not being able to create a gas when it's needed.
Well, and an engine heater's pretty much a good idea on those, because if the generator's inside the cowling and that engine heater's going, it will warm it up in there enough to
gasify.
For that propane to gas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess a lot of that depends on what part of the country you're in out here.
Oh yeah.
You know, the generator.
Well, and that's
outside.
That's what I said when we started talking winterizing. It's more a to me it's less a winter summer thing and more a what do I do at specific times of year relative to my specific environment and the equipment I've got to work with. And you know, I mean, like if I'm down in California, like Sacramento and a fairly low-lying site, not up in the mountains, I'm probably not going to be spending a lot of time worrying about heating the room. But I may spend a fair bit of time making sure that my blower belts are secure or whatever, you know. And obviously I'm going to go all over the map, but it'll be different from one to another.
I can remember one day, and it's got to be 40 years ago now, a long time ago. It was so cold here. We actually went below 32 degrees. It was 20 something. And I remember turning the auxiliary transmitter on into the dummy load because there was no other way to heat the transmitter building.
I did a job in Fairbanks, Alaska, had a transmitter that blew an output filter. And so nothing in the room to generate heat. And the warmest temperature I saw in 3 days was minus 40.
Yeek.
And we had a salamander in there, one of those gas-fired salamander space heaters, and I'd go stand in the exhaust of the thing just trying to warm up.
Well, let's talk about cold outside, cold inside, cold, but also part of that is the doorways and the ventilation ducts and things like that that ought to be sealed, not just for the cold, but for the four-legged or multi-legged animals.
Yep, and it's both to keep the critters out and keep stuff like this from happening. So I show this slide at least 4 times a year. Alex Hartman put a wise cam on one of his customer sites and caught this picture one day after somebody had been trying to get in, and it's like, yep. You see too many like that, but you're right. I was at a site in West Virginia about a month ago where they were growling about the transmitter failure rate. Well, there was completely no grounding, so that was one thing. There was no surge protection, so that was two, and the transmitter was just jammed full of dust. And turned out they had a nice, quote unquote, sealed air conditioned building with a pair of mini splits, but they didn't have any sealing around the door, and you could see the half inch gap at the bottom of the door. So, pretty much anything could just crawl right in there. And that's one of those, pick a bright sunny day, you go inside the building, you turn all the lights off, and then just look for glimmers of sunlight peeking through the cracks and crevices.
You could get a nice package of weather stripping at any hardware store and certainly beef up where the door closes.
Yep. And one other thing that a lot of people don't think about as much is we get talking about lubricating various things, and one of the things that should be lubricated that often gets overlooked is and I used this slide just 2 days ago, but I'm still going to do it again. But mechanized lubers. If your lubers jam open, that's typically not a good thing either. So yeah, basically anything that moves should be lubricated or duct taped, depending on whether it's supposed to move or not move.
And the comment about cameras is a good one. We probably should do a Thursday and just talk about cameras and different installations that folks have done, because having those cameras, what a major benefit that is.
Well, and it's one of those, it's not just security. I mean, nowadays you can get a pan tilt zoom wise cam for $50. And I mean, you can use it to look at meter readings. They've got some pretty good resolution on them. So yeah, there are a lot of options like that.
And also don't get the battery operated cameras, or if you do, get the adapter that will plug it into the wall, because you want not only do you want plugged in electric, you also want it to be on your Ethernet, and you don't want to be on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So you'll vary it quite a bit. Again, all this stuff, everything we do is going to be determined by budget, by situation, by what you've got available. But like for me, the security cameras around the house are all wise cams. Turns out that they'll survive a Canadian winter quite nicely as long as you tuck them under an eave so they're not getting snowed or rained on. Then you can buy outdoor ones, but those cost more. So, out here, what we look at mostly is the deer. I'm just taking a peek here. I thought I had something else that I want. Oh, yeah. One other thing that we don't really talk about a lot. I want to hit checklists real quick. We talked about it in the beginning, and it's just there is this really cool book, if anybody is into that sort of thing, called the Checklist Manifesto, and I forget who sent me that way. Oh, a bunch of years ago, somebody recommended it. Might have been, well, it could have been a bunch of years, could have been a bunch of weeks. I mean, time is kind of fluid as I get older. But this book was just a really good way of sort of teaching you how to optimize how you create checklists. And it was something that I didn't really, it's like, it's a damn checklist. How much education do you need to write a checklist? But you'd be surprised how in detail or sky level view you can get. And it's one of those too. Are you building a checklist for yourself to remind you of something that you already know? Or are you building a checklist for your backup guy to come in who may not be so familiar with it? So like if you look at what I've got on the screen, I think I've got screen sharing on. Yep. Testing the backup STL. Well, that may be all you need to know to do everything you need to do to verify your backup's functional. But for somebody coming in to cover you during an illness or a vacation, or somebody who comes after you, so to speak, once you've retired, they may need a few more steps in there. So that may have sub checklists, if you will, or it may refer to a procedure in an operations manual. Documentation is something that historically and I'm using the collective we here because I include myself, but I know there are exceptions, but historically we don't document well as an industry, and really we need to work on that. Now, how many people do have full operations manuals, like so somebody can walk into the site or into the studio totally cold, be able to flip through a book and see a page that's got manufacturer information, general tips and guidelines, and what if scenarios, if this then that. How many people have something like that in their facility? Greg says, yup. Oh, engineers and retired don't belong in the same sentence. Yeah, no question there. Well, it's like I was saying it early on, I've been doing double duty because Ted Nahill, our East Coast guy, retired, and a lot of folks know Ted from Intraplex days. And I mean, Ted's been in this industry pushing 50 years. Well, Ted didn't retire. Ted just retired from reporting to work full time. And so now he's still going to be involved, and I think you'll see him doing some contracting or consulting here and there, but he's not going to be punching a time clock anymore. So that's, I guess, as good as you get for retirement. I said when I decide I want to retire from Nautel, I'll just hire back on as a consultant, work half as many hours, and bill twice as much for it.
There you go. One of the things cameras will help in checklist, of course, and I was looking for a picture. I've got one here. I can't bring it up right now. That's the frozen air conditioner.
Oh, well, there. I'll stop share. You can grab it and go.
No, I can't find it.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll hit yesterday's slide deck, which was this yesterday's slide deck? No, that was a different one.
I just thought of something else.
Uh-oh.
If you have tower deicers, now is probably a real good time, if you haven't already, to make sure all the breakers are on.
I'm gonna say now might be,
So
well, we got
it'll
four
work.
inches we got 4 inches of snow yesterday, and I got more alarms on reduced power for SWR and ice than I have in the past several months. So yeah, if I had de-icers yesterday, would have been too late. But yeah, you are right. If you haven't done it already, this absolutely should be done.
And there also needs to be a cover for where the vehicle parks, so that falling ice does not create a body shop trip.
Let's see here. Is that the one? That's the one. Okay, this
and
might
also
work.
have a bag of sand if you get your car stuck.
Just because you want to be at the beach all the time, David. Come on now.
Or if you are a
don't
pet
deny
owner,
that.
if you're a pet owner like me, keep a 50-pound box of kitty litter in the back. But yep, something like that, and or traction belts or whatever you choose. Let's see. X that. There, you were talking about frozen air conditioners. I got a slide deck from Dan Gunter with Alabama Broadcast Services. Or got a couple of photos. So let's find Zoom again, and there we go. So yeah, he had several pictures of iced up air conditioner coils. The one on the right was cool because it's a metal fitting in the feed line, and that built up a ball of ice. And of course, the challenge with most of Dan's sites, he handles Southern Alabama and Georgia, so there, if an undersized air conditioner will run way too long, and stuff like that. Yeah, how do you winterize in Phoenix when summer temps are 130 and winter is 125? Well, you turn the air conditioner down half a degree. But yeah, it's that is a good point, though. Air condition. Sorry, go ahead.
I try and hold this so that it can. Oh, come on! It's that.
The background eats it. Yeah.
It's that problem. Hold on a second. I'll do this. I'll do it this way. If I take this and I jump up here, and I take the funny part off, there you go. You can see it now.
Well, that's ice, not an air filter.
That's ice.
Nicely done.
That is ice. That's
That's
what you
cool.
do not want to see.
I don't think I've seen anything quite that spectacular before.
So ignore the mess in the back. The man behind the curtain is not real. Oh, never
There you
mind.
go. Oh, Greg already found a copy of the Checklist Manifesto. So have you ordered a copy yet, Greg? No comment. Oh, there, but yeah, it's just one of those. It's like I tell folks, I don't really worry too much about how people document their stuff, or what you use for taking notes or creating your documentation, as long as you have a system that works for you. It's like for me, for example, I use Rocketbooks and Evernote, and I beat on those over and over again. But for checklists, I'm just plain old create a little checklist in Word or whatever, and then print out a bunch of copies, and then just go through with a pen, which is arguably not the most environmentally friendly way, but it's the one that works for me.
Well, if someone mentions fire, that brings us back to filters. That brings us back to a discussion of what are the right filters to have.
Well, and that's a good point too, because I've had a guy not too long ago that was saying, "Yeah, I solved the problem with the dust in my transmitter. I took your MERV 8 filters out and put MERV 12 filters in." And I said, "That's a bad idea because you're restricting airflow." "Oh, no, it's fine." And then about 6 months later, the next call is, "My power supplies are burning up." And it's like, yeah, because you restricted the airflow. So, yep, you got to pay attention to that. A lot of areas have seasonal fire or seasonal fire situations where keeping the undergrowth cleared from around the site, doing your defoliation, whatever you do for that. So it's going to vary a lot from one to another.
Always follow the manufacturer's recommendations.
Well, so quantify it when it comes to things like brush fire warnings and situations. We're not going to give you a lot of site maintenance tips. So yeah, there needs to be some or some scheduling for that as well. And that's something that by and large we've done a lot less of as we start trimming budgets and looking for ways to save money and discover that we're paying somebody $1,000 a year to bush hog the transmitter site.
But when I lived in California, the fire department suggested planting ice plant around the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
This fire won't go through it.
Really? Well, there you go. That's an interesting one.
Too much moisture.
So that is a very good point. I'm just taking a peek. This is not the slide deck that I thought it was. Looking for one other thing. One thing that we also don't talk about a lot, and I know for those of us that live in the northern climates, it's probably a little more common, is not bug out bags per se, but it's like a survival bag or the little go bag that you have just to make sure when you get stuck at the transmitter site because 8 inches of snow turned into 3 feet of snow. And so what do you carry, and what do you carry it in? Like I've got a 5-gallon bucket in the back of my pickup with a couple of blankets, sterno cans, a few MREs, and a jug of water, and the first aid kit and stuff like that. But what's everybody else use? And I like the 5-gallon bucket because the Home Depot 5-gallon bucket's $3.50. A lid with a rubberized liner that'll give me an airtight seal is another $1. And now I've got a watertight, weatherproof container. And it doubles as a toilet if all else fails.
I was going to say you would have a toilet. Yeah.
Yep.
Just don't forget the toilet paper.
Well, you can also get something else cool. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use it at a transmitter site just because of the not the environmental impact, but if you're stuck at a site in a snowstorm and you got 2 gallons of water, you're going to be preserving the water, conserving as much as you can. But you can get little portable bidets too, little handheld spray guns almost. Hey, you knew I was going there sooner or
I
later.
did. I did. I was just thinking it was just going through my head, and I'm going, he's going to say it.
He is. But and Ben's got a good point. Make sure you got some garbage bags to use as a liner, because yeah, if you got a crap in your bucket, you absolutely you may need to do something. A portable bidet in the winter. Well, remember, you're the only one at the transmitter site. Why are you outside? Of course, if the transmitter's off air, then it's going to be chilly anyway. But let's see, alcohol in a coffee can. Yep. Yep, TP alcohol in a coffee can. You've got yourself a good little gas burner right there.
Yeah, Colin just mentioned don't forget the pool noodle to put around the ring so you don't
hurt your boat. Yep.
don't dig yourself out. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean that's there's everybody was joking about it when it first came out. Has everybody heard of the bumper dumper? So the bumper dumper is basically a toilet seat that slides into a regular class 4 receiver hitch on the back of your truck, and you can slide a 5 gallon bucket underneath that with a liner in it, and you've got yourself a full blown outdoor porta potty. You can even they sell little screen curtains like a shower enclosure. I mean, you could make it as fancy as you wanted to. But everybody was laughing and joking about when they come out, and I looked at them and go, "That is a really cool idea." So you can tell the guys who've been caught short at a transmitter site versus those who haven't, just by the ones who are nodding their head and the ones who are laughing when you start talking about bumper dumpers.
And don't
Yeah.
forget significant weight in the bed of your truck in winter.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Four-wheel drive doesn't do you any good if the back 2 wheels are both riding on the surface of the ice and spinning like crazy. So,
Yeah, been there.
so I mean, one of the things I do, and I've got a little 2x4 frame that it's just one crossbar that goes at the front of the bed, 2 uprights going down just inside the wheel wells, and then 2 cross pieces at the back, one at tailgate and one right at front of the wheel wells. And then I can throw 400 pounds of sandbags in there. So now I've got the traction sand and I've got the weight in the back end. What my father used to do, because where I grew up, we live further north in here, and once it snowed in October or November, that snow was pretty much there until May. So the first snowfall, he'd have me go out and shovel the driveway, and he'd make me shovel the driveway into the back of his truck and just fill the back of the truck level with snow. And that was his weight for the winter. And trenching tool with a shovel, make the shovel horizontal and use it like a monopod. That sounds like a balancing act that is way beyond my capabilities. Okay, that's it for Mark's done now. I can see him laughing in the background. But yeah, no, I see me propping up like something like that. It'd be the world's worst suppository happening there. All right. On that note, Barry's sitting here going, I've totally lost control.
Well, we don't want to go too far afield there for sure. But yeah, gates, doors, door jams, cameras, filters, batteries, the generator. Did we talk about having enough fuel for the generator? Just in case it was
So
needed?
generator is its own whole page of maintenance stuff.
There is.
Because I mean, not only, well, and there are some things like the one thing that a lot of folks seem to, I say a lot of folks seem to overlook. That's not fair. And again, the one thing that I've run into where I see things being overlooked is stuff like fuel conditioning. Diesel fuel conditioning is something that just it gets missed more than anything, I think. Like people bring the guys in and they'll load test and they'll do their little maintenance routines, whatever it may be, and then they'll just totally forget to condition the fuel. So now I've got something else going on. I've just totally blown up my laptop.
Oh,
Almost totally. It's all relative.
now
It's
you've got
stuck.
80 emails, right?
Yeah, no, I wish it was only 80. No, I had a slide deck up and it's decided that it is going to be the only slide that I show anybody ever. There we go. But yeah, so generator maintenance, fluid levels changes, obviously, belts, filters, check for leaks. I mean, look underneath the thing and see if there's any puddles or drips or drops. Nothing worse than discovering that the generator comes up, runs for a few seconds, and then dies because all the coolant's laying on the floor.
Or just
You know?
beginning to go with your air conditioning heating system. The might be a small leak that starts, and at first it's just a little discoloration around the vent,
Mm-hmm.
and later on it can become a major problem.
Yep. Something else that it doesn't hurt to check on is ice bridges. Sometimes those can see a little damage, and just anything that needs to be stiffened or reinforced. It's a good idea to take care of that before the next ton of ice comes off the tower.
Here's one that you probably wouldn't have thought of, but I think is important. Light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
You get up there in the middle of winter, you trudged all your way in the last half mile on foot. You open the door and turn the switch, and the light doesn't come on.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, it drives my wife crazy because she says, I've never seen you walk past a sale of LED light bulbs. And it's like, well, no, I walk past it all the time. It's just as I'm passing, I'm grabbing the ones I think we're short of. And I've got two cardboard boxes in my workshop to my left with probably about 100 light bulbs in there and various hues and wattages. So, you need a light bulb, boy, I've got you covered. Everything. Well, I won't do tower lighting, but anything in the house, because she likes the more natural hued, and I like the bright white daylight bulbs. Yeah, Roland's got the good point. We talked about critters like sealing around the doors and stuff to keep the critters out, but we didn't talk a lot about packing those cracks and crevices like the ones around coaxes, etc., with steel wool and great stuff, or stainless steel wool, not regular steel. So how many people, here's a question, and this is something that you guys can educate me on. There used to be that the big thing to keep critters, rodents, and snakes out of your transmitter building was just to leave a Tupperware half full of mothballs. But somebody somewhere told me that some types of mothballs can emit a gas that is not conducive to good electronic use, so that it can cause corrosion on circuit boards. So does anybody have any input on that? That's something that, again, you hear stuff and you file it away and you go, well, until I see proof for and against, I don't know.
It wouldn't be just only the transmitter, it'd be your ATU boxes too.
Well, anything with copper in it, basically. They were saying that there was some benzene or ethylene or some chemical that got emitted.
The two main varieties of the mothballs are naphthalene and paradichlorobenzene, but I'm not sure which is bad for electronics.
Well, now I've got a research project. Great. Scott mentions wife still insists on incandescent, and incandescent bulbs, you can't get them in this part of the world at all anymore, except for things like tower lighting and some stage lighting stuff. I was that guy that when I bought this house in 2007, it was all CFLs, and fluorescent bulbs in general give me a headache. So it's just some are worse than others. I mean, but there have been stores where I've walked in with my wife, and 15 minutes later, it's like, I got to leave. I can't stay here because it's just making me sick. So, but LED bulbs don't bother me like that. So I've been good there. Best thing, Scott, that you might be able to do if you can talk her into going to a light display at like a Home Depot or an Ace Hardware, and see if you can find one that she thinks she likes the hue and the wattage of, and then get some of them and do some trial runs. But yeah, you're right. It's incandescence becoming a challenge.
I imagine you could get them off eBay.
Well,
Incandescence, probably.
I've replaced all of my bulbs with dimmable LEDs, and
Mhm.
they're Wi-Fi connected with what's her name,
Yeah.
and they change color temperature as well as brightness.
Yeah,
So-
and I mean that's like here I've got LED light panels in the dungeon here over and above the regular overhead bulbs. And yeah, I can turn these up and down and make it as bright or as dim as I want for studio type use.
Well, the problem is when you go to a building that has one bulb in it, and that bulb has died.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Let's see, appliance bulbs, 40 watts for so what we've done in our closets, I've gone to they're little they take two AAA's LED, they're just stick-ons and they're motion sensing. So when the closet doors open, the light comes on. And they work really well, and they weren't all that much. I think I got a 12-pack off Amazon. But then you just swap one thing for another, whether I'm doing light bulbs or swapping batteries.
I've been keeping a night light in all my transmitter shacks, just mainly so I can see things with the camera better. But it is kind of handy when you walk in the dark like that. At least you can find the light switch.
Yep.
And that's, a single equivalent 60-watt LED bulb will last forever and doesn't hardly eat any energy. So,
right.
Yeah, works great.
I'm looking around here. The other thing that that I grab a lot of is whenever I'm at a trade show, I'm forever grabbing the little LED light bars. And this one happens to be mag mount and clip on. The Alaska Broadcasters Association gave these away when they saw us giving them away a few years prior to that. There, Mark's got one too. And at one point, I want to say it was either Shively or Dielectric had one that was like an array of 6x3 bulbs, and that thing was like daylight bright. It was unreal. But yeah, that cell phone flashlight and flashlights in general are something else that we haven't really talked about. But it's always good to have some source of light. And if your cell phone's down to 12%, keep a couple of battery packs around. I think I've probably got 4 or 5 of them. I think they're all upstairs right now. But yeah, again, anything sorry, go.
Keep a flashlight in the truck. I mean, I do. Yep. I carry a big flashlight in the truck, so I at least have something.
So I don't carry my deer jacking light in the truck for obvious reasons, because if the fish and game guy happens to see me with a big old 6-cell mag light in there, that could be some explaining required. But yeah, I keep a half a dozen flashlights in the truck. We've got the battery powered flashlights scattered all through the house. And again, check the batteries, or if they're rechargeable types, then make sure they're kept fully charged.
There are some lamps that you can have that
solar. Yep.
All you have to do is just crank away. And
so for a lot of years, I got one from the Wisconsin Broadcasters. I think I got one from TAB one year. They had these little blue radios that had a flashlight on them and the radio, and a USB charger off it, and it was dynamo powered, so you could crank it up and charge your phone while you were cranking. You're cranking a magneto, so it's it takes a little bit of effort. Yeah, flashlight on the belt, another small one in the pocket. USB rechargeable lights, absolutely, and I've got one plugged into, so you can get, and I've got a bunch of them upstairs that I got from some trade show or other. But it's plugs into your cigarette lighter, because these days cars, they still have the cigarette lighter socket, even though most of them don't come with a cigarette lighter itself. So you can just plug one of these cigarette lighter lights in there to keep it charged and give you a little backup light. That got me thinking of something else, and I got sidetracked with it, and I don't know where I was going, but eventually I'll look around here. I've got more trade show swag kicking around than I really should be able to admit to.
Yeah, this is the C crane, Greg.
Oh, there you go.
I got a small Midland AM/FM weather radio that has rechargeable batteries plus standard double A's plus a crank.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, having
when you crank it-
rechargeable and double A's is kind of cool.
when you crank it, you can also charge your cell phone or your
Yep.
portable battery or whatever. Just
The Midland will charge cell phones as well.
Right. Now, and there's where I was going with that. So one of the other things that I've started carrying, there's one in my wife's car right now, is the Noco battery boosters. Because, I mean, those little Noco battery boosters make jump starting a car a piece of cake. But I've used it to jumpstart my generator. I've used it to jumpstart my John Deere. I mean, it's it's just a wonderful little device, and the thing will charge off a USB and give you about 200 cranking amps, depending on what size you buy. But it's also got USB ports out, so it becomes a 5-volt source as well as a battery charger.
But I'll give you a warning that over a period of time, these do go bad. They go bad in a couple of ways. First of all, the battery will lose its ability to charge. And then secondly, you'll find that the little pieces that form the crank,
Yeah.
they just come apart.
Hmm.
And they get a funny sticky thing, and then they come apart. It's like the plastic deteriorates.
And I think that's the case of almost anything made of plastic. Plastic does degrade. I mean, they growl about it not biodegrading fast enough, but it'll degrade to the point where it'll get brittle pretty quickly, depending on the specific type of plastic.
It's all made in China.
Or Mexico or India or
Taiwan.
wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to manufacturing decisions on cost versus whatever. There, so that is the one I've got. I'm just grabbing a link for Noco Battery Boost for anybody that hasn't heard of it before, because they say this thing, for my money, is arguably one of the smartest decisions I ever made when it comes to buying tools. And it started as a Christmas present to myself last year. And Real Boss liked it so much that she kind of took it over. And so now I've got to get myself another one for Christmas this year.
Yeah, for the one I like here is the Tough Tested. This is it's a regular light. It's a fluorescent light with several levels.
Mm-hmm.
It's rechargeable, and it also has the, you want to go crazy here. I don't know if that'll show, but
Oh, yeah, strobe function.
it's going to flash blue or red or both, or, if you have a danger thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I have is this Phoenix light, Phenix, and this thing will at 5,000 lumens. You'll be able to be seen by half a mile or a mile.
I've heard of those ones, the tactical lights. I haven't gotten any of those, but David's got a good point too. Remember your Leatherman or multi-tool, or I usually carry the small tools, but I've always got like the pocket knife in my pocket.
That goes back to our sustaining carry pack. We got to do that again one of these days.
Yep. Well, that's it. And I mean, it all comes down to, you know, how much weight do you want to be toting around with you too. So it's Mike Patton used to joke that he can repair pretty much anything. Well, no, he was talking about you walked into a site and did a repair just with what he had in his pocket, including full disassembly of something or other. And
you may make a special additional appearance this month on Thanksgiving.
There you go. There
We'll
you go.
replay
I'll be off on Thanksgiving, so that'll work.
We'll replay the things to take, and if you want to join in, add more stuff, fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, 2 weeks from now, right? 3 weeks.
Hitting there.
So I've got a boogie because Real Boss has got a list of things that needs to be taken care of over the next day or two. Apparently, we're going to have some visitors over the weekend, and she wants me to. Wilson's smirking. We're doing a training course next week because apparently they think we need to learn some things too. And so Jeff Wilson's coming up, and usually when Wilson and I are in the same area, that's a lot of fun, but sometimes troublesome. He's just smirking and nodding. Anyway, so on that note, I'll let y'all go.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing you live or
simulated or recorded or whatever